The Fight Before Christmas is the 11th episode of the 7th season of Frasier. This is directed by Pamela Fryman, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode chronologically and share some thoughts. It's a really great episode. It starts off establishing that it's Christmas. Roz comes over to drop off a punch bowl, and then Daphne talks with Roz about Niles. And we have some comedy with her referring to Dr. Crane, and it definitely sounds like a very confusing situation. But as Roz explains, she's with Donny, Niles is with Mel, so clearly he's moved on, everything is going to be okay. And then Niles arrives at that moment and Daphne gets a little bit flustered. It turns out Niles is actually having to spend some time with Maris because their gardener died, and that becomes important in a little bit. But Martin's happy. Martin seems to be the only person who's genuinely happy, and this is largely because he got his little Santa working, the Santa with the little cowboy hat. Absolutely adorable. We then cut to the KACL party. Frasier happens to mention something to Mel. Mel wasn't aware that Niles had spent time with Maris because they just worried she'd get the wrong end of the stick and think that he was still interested in her. I think it's safe to say he definitely isn't, and Mel wouldn't have any reason to be concerned. But Mel does seem to be the kind of person who's maybe a little unhinged and who wouldn't really listen to reason, so I can understand why Niles didn't say anything. And Niles explains that it's just because he didn't mention Maris, but he said that he didn't spend time with her because he was out buying her a present. And Frasier overhears this, that they're talking about a present, and he also says to the past, present, and future, Maris is all in the past. So he put his foot in it on multiple occasions in the episode, to the point where Niles and Mel broke up. And then we spend the rest of the episode after the KACL party at Frasier's apartment. He's having a party for loads of guests. He didn't really invite anybody from work apart from Roz, so he had to try and keep that a secret, and that didn't go according to plan. The KACL party scene, very, very funny. When we're at Frasier's apartment, things slow down a little bit, and this is largely because the upstairs neighbour, is stealing all of Frasier's guests. There's a bit of a kerfuffle with some presents, and then Niles hands them out, and he realises he handed out the wrong ones, which becomes really significant in a moment. And it's a very busy, it slows down compared to the KCL scene, but it's still a very busy episode. We're jumping back and forth between the characters, but it never felt too chaotic. Although it did get a bit chaotic when Frasier is standing on the balcony trying to waft the aroma of his food up to the people upstairs. It's a very, very funny scene. We then find out that Niles spoke with Mel and she's coming over. He was able to explain the issue with the gardener, and Niles is then on the balcony with Daphne. He needs to talk to her about something, and this scene is probably the most frustrating to watch. There are a lot of emotions in this scene, and as a viewer I wanted certain things to happen, and I don't blame them for dragging it out or for Daphne not saying anything to Niles, but I do just wish they'd talk about this, because Niles is on the balcony. He's going to have to ask Daphne for the gift back because he accidentally gave her the wrong gift when there was a kerfuffle with the gifts. But Daphne thinks he's about to declare his love to her, and initially she's going to talk to him first and say, I know how you feel about me, but nothing can happen. I'm with Donny, you're with Mel. And he gives her his coat because it's cold. And in that moment, she kind of realizes that he's a gentleman and he's very caring and considerate. That scene would have been more powerful had they been on the balcony, Daphne and Donny, and he hadn't given her his coat. It would have been a little bit more impactful. Not that I'm saying giving somebody your coat makes you a better person than somebody who doesn't necessarily, but I think it would have been a bit more moving. But nevertheless, Daphne realizes in that moment, it's very clear from her expression, that maybe she does like Niles that way. And as Niles is talking to her, it's almost as if she's wanting him to confess his feelings. So when he says, I need my Christmas present back, it's very clear that she was confused, because that's not what she expected him to say. But I also think she was a little bit devastated as well, and I think it's a really powerful moment, and I think it explains a lot, or reveals a lot rather, about how she's really feeling. I still think she's very confused, but I don't think she's just, I'm not interested in Dr. Crane at this point in the show. Obviously, I can't say too much about what might or might not happen going forward, as I won't spoil everything. But certainly in this episode, I really wanted some forward movement, but at the same time, it makes sense that they're dragging things out a little longer. Mel then arrives. Daphne tells Roz, I've never been so relieved in my life. And I don't believe her. I don't believe a word of it. And then they have carols around the piano, really brings in the Christmas theme again. And then we end the episode in the final scene with Martin on the balcony finding his little Santa hat. The thought there, of course, is that Frasier has done something with Martin's cowboy hat wearing Santa, and Martin turns around and sees Frasier through the balcony doors, which was quite funny. So it's a great episode, very festive. The Christmas decorations really bring in that Christmas theme. We have some Christmas carols. Yes, I do wish that Niles and Daphne would just talk about this, but I don't blame them for dragging it out a little bit. It's not unusual for sitcoms to have a dramatic reveal and then for nothing really to move forward for quite a while. Although I will say Daphne's emotions in this, I think, move it forward a little bit by helping her to realise maybe how she feels. I still don't think she fully knows how she feels, but I think we get a little bit of movement there. So, in general, The Fight Before Christmas is an absolute joy. Personal highlights would have to be the decor. I think it looks brilliant. Daphne talking about Dr. Crane and Dr. Crane. I'm easily amused. I know it's a small thing, but I quite liked it. The whole KCL party scene I thought was very well executed. Frasier wafting the food up the balcony I rather liked as well. In general, no complaints. As a viewer, yes, I feel frustrated that things aren't moving quickly enough, but I don't think it's a criticism of the episode. I think it's pretty typical of how this kind of thing is paced in a sitcom, but obviously that's part of the joy of wanting things to just move forward, and I can't complain too much because we waited so long for Daphne to find out the truth anyway. So in general, The Fight Before Christmas is an absolute joy, and really there's nothing about it that I didn't like.